Yesterday, coming down this hill here, came on this intersection. Because I was turning left, I missed the on-ramp to the cycling lane, which is slightly to the right of the intersection. I have slightly mixed feelings about this stretch. On the one hand, we have a dedicated lane, two-way here. It is separated from traffic. On the other hand, it's only separated by paint. And because it's not newly paved and it's at the edge of the pre-existing road, it is pretty rough at times. The northbound lane has to deal with grates. Both sides have manhole covers. And you are only protected by paint. Though you also have this rumble strip, which is actually significant, I think. I don't know if the statistics bear that out or not. And despite the nature of the road, people don't actually drive excessively fast along there. Best part about this, though, this new construction, is that you no longer have to navigate this traffic light. So moving the entire two-lane cycle infrastructure to the east side of Broadway helps in that respect. And that's fantastic, because that light was not pleasant. Didn't usually feel unsafe. Though again, as I've said before, my definition for unsafe for me is very different than what I would say is acceptable or not for a community. Certainly, my 11-year-old would feel uncomfortable there, and there's no way I would take a 6-year-old through that intersection. But with the path, either of them could absolutely ride comfortably down here. From a connection perspective, the only thing that really remains is to actually join it up in some way. Because the connection is made via a potholed road and a one-lane tunnel. And while I have yet to actually have any issues other than the potholes here, I am waiting for the time when a car doesn't look first and comes barreling through here. But it hasn't happened yet. This section of the path is horrendous. Given the recent rain, it's going to be worse. A lot of people will avoid some of these bumps by riding off. But I think it's probably too wet to get away with that on my bike. Well, maybe not. Yep, it is. So take the bumps very slowly. Smooths out again about now, I think. On your left. On your left. If you ride this in the afternoon or the early evening, it's often deer along here. Probably too late in the morning for that now, but you never know. That comes over the bridge from Troy, 378 bridge. Which is nice. The bridge isn't. The experience is actually quite unpleasant as a cyclist, but the existence of the connection is good. It's certainly serviceable and safe, at least once you get to the bridge. But it doesn't take you any farther. You can't, for example, continue on 378 in any way into Menands or the Port Schuyler neighborhood of Watervliet, though we're farther south than that by now, but there's no access there. You'd have to go farther north to where I got on the path this morning. Which, if you were trying to go from Troy up into Colony, Loudonville area, or continuing on to, say, the Honest Weight Food Co-op, a more direct route would be straight up 378. I've never actually tried to cycle that myself, though I believe some people may attempt it. The large number of people I see fishing on the Hudson always makes me rather disappointed that you can't eat anything that you catch there. On your left. Not that I fish myself. I don't really have the patience for it. But I do see the appeal, even if you don't get to eat at the end, of being either out on the water or looking out on the water if you're on a pier or a bridge, and just being able to sit quietly. On your left. On your left. Oh, that makes me a little sad that my kids are now too big for the double stroller. On your left. Okay. I would be very interested to know which municipality or governmental organization has the responsibility of maintaining this section. That connection goes over to Broadway. That's new. That's actually quite decent. As a means of getting from the path into Manans and vice versa. With all of the conversations about 787, I would be interested to know what is the added cost to all of these projects that do connect the waterfront to the communities north of Albany and the warehouse district and things like that, given that they have to deal with 787. So if that were just a boulevard, creation of that connection would be maybe a traffic light and some paint. At least until we get to the point where we have protected bike lanes in this area, but we don't. Or don't have many. That's changing. But there aren't any there. So that would be, you know, traffic light and some paint. Instead it took months to build a series of bridges and tunnels. And that added cost, of course, means that there's less to spend on other bike infrastructure. Like repaving the path. Which, especially along here, oh boy, could use a little attention. I probably could have made that pass. On your left. I love the existence of these benches. I think it's a wonderful thing. Haven't yet had the chance to come down here and enjoy them, but I like the fact that they're there. That's a good thought. On your left. It is interesting seeing the different reactions of pedestrians when you go to pass on a bicycle. I think there are kind of maybe three general responses or patterns, three patterns of response. You have people who do nothing at all, which, if they're just walking by themselves on the right, is fine. If they're walking either by themselves in the middle or with a group of people in the middle, it's a little annoying, but as long as there's room, it's not the end of the world. It is a shared space. You have the type of people I try to be, who acknowledge that it's going to happen, generally by briefly holding out a hand, sometimes by moving over a little bit, which is helpful. Usually if they wave, I try to wave back, as I've found that when I'm running, seeing a cyclist do that is kind of a nice gesture. It creates a connection even though there's no eye contact or anything. And then you have people who act like you've just sounded an air horn from a truck. And I always wish there were a way to sort of reassure them that this is their path too. On your left. Especially when, as in many cases, they were already leaving more than enough space. They didn't have to do anything at all. So I always feel a little bad. I mean, there's nothing I can do differently, I don't think. The tide is up a little bit. I don't know where high tide is today. When it's low tide, you can see quite a bit of the bottom of the river there. And it has that very water's edge scent to it. But the water's up at the moment. On your left. I'm sorry. Sorry. This is one of the only situations where I will not begrudge or complain about the large number of pickup trucks and SUVs. Because if you're towing a boat, especially a fairly large one, that is actually an appropriate safety thing. Make sure you have enough vehicle to control the trailer. All right. That's clear, that's clear.